going on, Jerome? So yes, we are enjoying this 8-2 Magic Carpet Ride type season. Hopefully, it ends up with a Jerome Barty down in New Orleans. First of 12 Jerome Bardys in the next 10 years. But of course, the draft never sleeps. And of course, Kwesi, maybe not so great early returns from the 2022 class, but it has improved in the last couple of years, and also the Vikings have been very good in terms of UDFAs, etc. But the Vikings are going to have needs, right? Running back potentially, cornerback potentially. Of course, all of this hinges on what happens in free agency. Interior offensive line is always a need, but of course, we have the meats. The Vikings need to get back to where we once belong in terms of having the best defensive line in the National Football League. Now, respect what the Vikings have done this year. They've been solid against the run, but we want some more dudes. We want some more dudes. We want some more size. We want 2 tons of manpower up front. Woo. That's right, man. And our guy Thor Nystrom over at Fantasy Life gave the Vikings what they needed. That's right. And we got a fever, and the only prescription is more freaking nose tackles, man. So skimming the mock. So with the quarterback tax, Shedeur and Cam Ward are going to be pushed up to the top. Are they the best players in this draft? But also you can basically make that case every year where the quarterbacks aren't the top tier players, but they go 1-2 because that's what happens. So the Raiders and Shedeur, that one seems like it's a match made in heaven, right? And then Deone would eventually follow his kid to Vegas. That makes sense. Giants and Cam Ward, I actually like that connection a lot. Plus Cam Ward, plus Malik Neighbors. Maybe they got something going. Tyrone Tracy. I know Thor's a big fan of him. It's so stupid that Tyrone Tracy used to be a wide receiver with Iowa with Amir Smith-Marset, and they still couldn't throw the ball. It's funny, man. Travis Hunter going to New England. So I don't know if the whole wide receiver cornerback shtick will play in the NFL. I think the year is simply too long. I think that personally, I think that he should be a receiver and then can moonlight at corner in some certain packages and situations, but we'll see. But if he does stick at corner like him and Gonzo long term, that's really good, man. I like it. McMillan going to Carolina kind of stinks. So I'm listening to a book called The System by Armand Catan. It's basically about how NIL money has completely changed the college football landscape. And Arizona, I mean, Jed Fish had built up Arizona into a powerhouse, man, and they just bounced. Kind of stinks. But, with Noah Fafita and McMillan, I mean, they could have been something in Tucson, man. Come on. Also, I know I've gotten pooped before for saying that Tucson is nice. I will stand by that. Tucson's a great culinary town. Maybe not so much the other stuff, but don't care. You got Will Johnson, who just declared going to Jacksonville. Love that. Kelvin Banks, who, I don't know, Banks had played in the SEC title game. He was out with injury. I mean, maybe Texas wins, but I think that's a great get for Tennessee. Him and J.C. Latham would be fantastic. So Banks at left tackle, Latham at right tackle, Skoronski floating around there. I mean, that's some really good raw material for Bill Callahan to work his magic. Still one of the best offensive line coaches in the game. Mason Graham going to the Jets. I kind of like that. Jalen Milroe. So it depends on if Milroe declares. If he doesn't, this is clearly a 2 quarterback class. If he does, it's 2.5, maybe 3. I don't see Milroe getting past Sanders or Ward. I think they're clear cut 1-2. Also, it should be noted that if J.J. McCarthy was in this class, he would be number 1 with a bullet. He would be clearly the number 1 overall pick. But so, I mean, Vikings fans, that should make you feel good. Campbell going to Chicago. Definitely need some offensive line help there. Abdul Carter. Carter's been interesting because he's been on the radar for the last couple of years. Primarily an off-ball guy, switched the edge. So he's in that Micah Parsons sort of trajectory. But dude is just a dog. He's an absolute stud, man. Williams going to New Orleans. Ashton Jeanty going to Dallas. So this is probably the most mocked pick. Or not mocked, like made fun of, but the most connected team and player. I think Jeanty with Dallas would make a lot of sense, and I think that would set them up on the ground for a long time. Then gives them a facsimile of the triplets. Dak once he gets back, then you got CD. Now you got Ashton Jeanty. I mean, that's pretty good. A little bit of Rico Dowdle still left in there too. Plus, I'm not ready to give up on Deuce Vaughn. Maybe it's just because it's a good story, but I don't know. Stark's going to Miami. That's just you. Tyler Warren, James Pierce Jr. I mean, Pierce came into the season with a lot of hype. A lot of people had him as a top 5 pick. Cooled off a little bit, but definitely has all the tools. Luther Burden, I think, is going to be a monster. Like, going to Arizona. Him and Marvin Harrison Jr. Let's go. Then let's see. Oh yeah, go for that. So I don't know what it is. Like PJ is so good at recruiting NFL talent, but where is that results? Just like we just need to get it. Siobhan Ravel coming out of East Carolina, going to the Rams. Now he's coming off an ACL, and he's been mocked to the Vikings in later rounds. I think that he has a lot of talent. There's a chance that he could have been the first corner not named Travis Hunter drafted in this class if he had stayed healthy, but we'll see. Cameron Williams, Texas got a great offensive line. Same thing with Georgia this year. Kenneth Grant, the other Michigan defensive tackle, he's out there too. Loveland, tight ends off the board. Morrison, Shamar Stewart. Stewart's going to be good, too. Walker Nolan, Jalen Walker, Jalen. Notably, another Walker going to the Vikings at 28. It's going to be 32, but yeah. So the Vikings picking up Deone Walker, the huge nose tackle from Kentucky. I love this pick. I love this selection, especially given the way that the corners came off the board, and also in terms of interior offensive line, it might be a little bit stretched here, but I think Walker is definitely too much value, especially since Walker had such a huge 2023 season that he slid down the draft a little bit. Like one for one, they're completely different players, but this is sort of what happened with Sharif Floyd back in 2013. He was seen widely as a high draft pick, but he slid down. The Vikings got value. It's unfortunate. Sharif would have had a great career if he didn't have that surgery mishap. But Walker, coming off a 7.5 sack season in 2023, it was widely seen as a top 10, if not top 5 draft pick. Like he was seen as the second coming of Dexter Lawrence. Cooled off a little bit in 2024, but still had a damn solid season. And the Vikings getting him late in the first round would be great value. This is what Thor wrote. The Vikings are going to be looking to add at least one new starter on the interior defensive line this offseason, and perhaps even 2. Walker is a ridiculous physical specimen at 6'6", 345. He's more athletic than T'Vondre Sweat. You guys know how much I love T'Vondre Sweat, who went 38 overall to the Titans last process. A linebacker's best friend in the run game. Walker's also a much better pass rusher than most 340-pounders. He's piled up 15 sacks, 76 hurries, 96 pressures, over 965 pass rush reps in the last 3 years. Now, his official sack total is 10, but Thor's listing his PFF sack total, which is 15. So they give half sack credits as full sacks, but it's beside the point. Either way, he's still really good for a nose tackle. Walker would take over the nose tackle gig in Minnesota, kicking Harrison Phillips to defensive end in Minnesota's 3-4 alignment. Now that is a move that we've talked about for the last couple of years. Harrison has been fighting the good fight at nose, but I do think that he doesn't have the classic 3-4-0-1 tack nose tackle frame, and I think that he does potentially wear down later in games and later in the season. I think that he would stay fresher and a lot more effective at that 4 or 5 tech spot. Where Tillery Bullard and now where Jalen Redmond's been playing. But yeah, just having that man-sized nose tackle in the middle, and also one where you could keep him in potentially on third and short, third and medium situations where he can get a pass rush. I think that would be huge, man. And Deone Walker, he's a plus athlete, moves well for his size. I think that he's really going to impress at the combine. I think that he could have a T'Vondre Sweat type combine. He's a true two-gapper. Takes up multiple offensive linemen. Like Thor said, he is a linebacker's best friend. Like Cashman and Pace would just be like, hey, that guy who keeps us clean. Yeah. Kind of nice. He does have nice pass rushing stats, but he's still developing as a pass rusher right now. He's getting by on just pure physical prowess, as Sylvie. What's going on? And I said, hey. I don't know if she likes those new salmon treats. Like she does and she doesn't. Anyways, but the 96 pressures, 10 sacks, 2023 All-American. Probably won't be first-team All-American in 2024, but is still an absolute stud. And frankly, if the Vikings get him at the back end of the first round, that's monstrous, just huge value for the Vikings. Then Ohio State wide receiver U going to Buffalo, kind of like that as their future 1A, 1B with Keon Coleman. Sawyer going to Philly, although I don't know, man. Like I feel like I dropped Sawyer like several rounds because of how he reacted to Michigan planting the flag at the shoe. It's like, hey, man, if you didn't want them to plant the flag, how about you play better during the damn game? That's it. Also, did you see that lawmakers in Ohio are trying to make it a felony to plant a flag at Ohio Stadium or at the shoe? It's like, hey, there's a really good way to have the opposing team not plant their flag at midfield is if you win at home. I don't know. Tyler Booker going to Kansas City. Booker is a name that I would have considered here at 28, given this situation. But Booker's going to be a stud as well. Pretty good interior offensive line class. I really like this one a lot. Then Landon Jackson going to Arkansas. I kind of hate that. Because it's a really good pairing with Hutchinson long term. But overall, like the Vikings getting the meat, Deone Walker, definitely would take that, man. But your thoughts are thoughts. Vikings grab a plus-size nose tackle. Love it. Let us know your thoughts. Our thoughts, comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. You guys know what to do. Skol, production value.